Your church could make a greater impact if more people just knew you existed. And in today's video, I'm going to share with you the roadmap that's going to help you reach more people, to bring 3 times as many church guests to your building to hear the gospel. Not even to your building. You got small groups, you got outreach events. What I'm going to show you today is going to get triple the number of people to you. And even in 1 year, we've seen 10 times the number of guests come to a small local church to hear the gospel, to be healed, to be delivered. We're going to go into the exact roadmap, the exact steps you need in the right order to help you reach those people so you can disciple them, grow the kingdom. Let's get to it.
Welcome to the Best Known Church Show, where we show you how to 10x your reach with church marketing that will help you increase your impact, make more disciples, and become the cornerstone of your community again. This is for the leaders with an outrageous vision, because anything less would be an inaccurate reflection of our Creator. The ones who have unreasonable faith, because you know God works unreasonable miracles. And the ones who are relentless in the pursuit of your calling, because anything less would not make a good and faithful servant. If that's you, you're in the right place. Now, please welcome your host and guide on this journey to become the best known organization in your community, Justin Nava.
Welcome to the Best Known Church Show. In this show, we're going to talk about what's going to get your church out into the community, get people to know you, so when you serve them, they don't think, oh, well, that's nice, a one-time thing. They've already heard of you. They're already convinced. They already know. They're already persuaded that your church is there to serve, support, help, heal all of them through Jesus Christ. And in today's episode, I'm going to give you the exact roadmap that we use to help churches reach more people, because I want you to have the same experience I did one late night when I woke up after midnight. Now, no, I don't want you to have to wake up after midnight, but I want you to stick with me here because you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. I was dead asleep. My phone rings. I answer the phone, and it's the youth pastor. And he tells me that one of our students, a student who was at church several times a week. He was there every Sunday. He was there almost every Wednesday. He was someone that, would raise his hand and answer the questions that we asked in Sunday school. He was someone that we knew had some personal issues, but we didn't quite know how bad it was, which is why when I got that phone call, it was a surprise to me to learn that this student, we're going to call him Chris, was about to take his own life. But before he did that, he checked Instagram. We have this thing we call doom scrolling, where we kind of scroll to get all the bad news. Chris was literally doom scrolling in that he was trying to, put it off or whatever. Obviously it was God, because what happened was, as he was scrolling through Instagram, he saw an Instagram ad from our church. And that ad talked about how nothing can separate us from the love of God. No angels, no demons, no heaven or hell. Nothing can stop. I'm going to make a terrible quote there, but nothing can stop us. Nothing can separate us from God's love. Nothing can stop God from loving us. And so instead of reaching for the razor blade, he instead stayed on his phone and called our youth pastor. And the call that I got from the youth pastor was after that. And it wasn't a call of worry or concern. It was actually a call of celebration, because God divinely intervened in Chris's life and said, I'm not done with you yet. You may think that I don't love you, but I do. And I'm not saying that it was all because of me. It was all because of God. But God used the strategy that I'm about to share with you today to reach into Chris's life and divinely intervene and say, you're not done yet. And in fact, Chris got married last year. He's living a good life and a God-honoring life. And while we had no idea what was happening, God did, and he saved Chris's life. And I'm going to share with you exactly how we got that ad in front of Chris, and how God could use that even at that time at midnight, when his first thought was not call youth pastor. His first thought was not go to the church website. His first thought wasn't even to check out the church social media. It was just to scroll. And we interrupted that scroll, or I should say God interrupted that scroll. And it's because of what we're doing and what we're talking about today. Look, I got my start in marketing totally by accident. I'm actually speaking at a conference at the end of the month called the Accidental Church Conference. And I'm in the exact position that these guys were 10 years ago. I had no idea what I was doing, but my first task at my job at the church was to fix the church website. I had no idea what I was doing. I spent 6 months and valuable church budget on my salary, on courses, on trainings, on webinars, on books. I even took a local community college class. That was a waste of time. But eventually I figured out I don't know if I figured it out, but eventually we got a website that we were happy with and we put it up live. And with that website, we brought in 13 new families to our church. That was unheard of for us at the time. And 12 of those 13, I wish I could say all of them, but 12 of those 13 mentioned the website as a reason that they decided to visit our church and eventually join our church. See, God used our website to be available for our community when they were searching for a church. And I used what I learned to try to persuade them that our church could serve them in the way that we serve God. Okay. Because there were a lot of false teachers and false prophets in that area. So we had to be very careful about how we approach our website. Eventually I had other pastors asking me to build their websites. And so I did. But come around 2016, 2017, every church had a website. It may not have been a good one, but every church had a website, which meant that when someone searched for a church, they wouldn't just see our website anymore because we were at the forefront in 2012. They would see other churches. And so it became not only can we have a website for people to see, but can we make sure it's seen by people by being at the top of the list when they search for a church? That's when I had to learn search engine optimization. And then fast forward to 2019, it's not enough just to get at the top of Google search, because now you're getting interrupted by ads. Now you're getting interrupted by local places. Now you're getting interrupted by other churches and other services that are having local search engine optimization. And not only that, that's when I felt conviction in that having a website is great. Having a website be found is great, but you're just getting people that are looking for churches. And some of them are lost. Some of them are feeling the pull of God, and others are just church transplants. And we want to serve them if their church is not serving them. But that's not doing whatever it takes to reach the lost. That's not reaching people where they are. It's still waiting for them to come to us, waiting for them to search for something, to ask a question. It's like if I go to a venue that I know is full of 100% lost people and I say, I'm going to disciple them, and I walk in there and I just stand there with maybe a church shirt on. And I'm just, no, you got to go and talk to people. You got to go start up conversations. You have to go and be willing to literally meet people where they are. And when people are online, you have to be willing to interrupt their day. And if we're going to interrupt their day, it's going to be worthwhile. It's not going to be for some makeup brush. It's not going to be for some new get-rich-quick scheme. It's not going to be for some essential oil. It is going to be Jesus Christ. All right, what's a better example than that? Okay, so I went from a path of just websites to websites and being found, and then from websites and being found and being known, being seen, and I realized that this was something that many churches need. And the second church that I took through this whole process, okay, we grew them, we helped them reach more people in their community, and they grew from 3 guests a month to a year later, they were getting 30 a month. And God was blessing that church, not just because of what we did, but in co-authorship of what we were doing. Because the problem with most church marketing efforts and most churches is they look for, I love this, I heard this morning, they look for silver bullets, and what they really need are golden BBs. Meaning you're not going to find one shot that does the job. You need to take multiple shots with pinpoint accuracy. And the way that I describe it is it's like a puzzle. Okay? You want to get the community, the people around you, your neighbors, the ones you're called to serve, the ones you planted your church for, to see the entire picture of your church in that you serve Jesus Christ. And you want them to see that entire picture, because if you ask any one of them what a church is, you're going to get as many answers as people you ask. Or as I like to say, if you ask 100 people what a church is, you're going to get 117 different answers. Because each of them have only seen a piece of the puzzle of the picture of the church. And it isn't until they see the different pieces and how they fit together do they actually understand the full meaning behind the local church and what the local church can do for them. And then not only that, what your church can do for them. Because if you only show them half the puzzle, they are going to fill in the other half. And with those assumptions, it's never what you want. Okay? You let people assume things, they're always going to assume the worst. So what we did, I say we, it was me, but then I grew the team, is created a definitive church marketing method. That is a definitive, this is all you need to reach people for the gospel, to get them connected with your church and hear the gospel to be discipled, right? And this is piece by piece, putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. It's a 9-piece puzzle, but if you do this in the right order, because just like with a puzzle, right? You start with the outside, then you find the colors. Okay, there's a pop of pink over here, so let me get the pink pieces, put those over there. Okay, it's a flower. Let me find some green stems, right? And eventually you get the whole puzzle together. You got to follow a certain strategy when you're doing your puzzle, when you're doing your marketing. And that's where a lot of churches get it wrong. They start in the middle because that's the sexy part. That's the part that really reaches people. But you haven't built the edge yet. You have no idea what you're doing. You're just trying to get random puzzle pieces together. I don't want to give you puzzle pieces. I want to give you the whole puzzle. Not only that, I want to do the puzzle for you, right? I want you to come home and you got 3 people in your house saying, tell me about this Jesus person. And I'm sitting there sealing the puzzle up, about to hang it up on the wall. That's what I want to be. So let me run down the puzzle for you. I'm going to throw up a graphic here. Hopefully. There we go. Okay, hopefully you can still hear me. Cool. So this is our definitive church marketing method. This is actually an old one because we did some updates to it, but that's okay. And it goes in 3 phases. And this is where churches get in trouble because they jump immediately to phase 3 and they don't actually put in the work of their foundation. The foundation actually starts with 3 steps. We call it influence inception because that's what it is. You're figuring out how you're going to influence your community without them, not without them realizing it, but without them pushing back. Because that's what we want. We want to have a message for your church that's going to reach people in a way that they can't ignore. And the gospel, while it is life-saving, redeeming, important, rescuing, chain-breaking, if we just go out, and you know this, Pastor, if we just go out and start reading the Bible, not many people are going to pay attention. They're going to brush it off. They're going to start arguing with you. But if you go out and present it in a way that they understand that this is for me, this meets my needs, this meets my hurt, this fills the hole in my heart, then they listen to when you read the Bible, right? So you got to start with the message. That's why we start with be clear. It's having a clear message that your community cannot ignore. What does that message look like? I guarantee you it should not be Sundays at 10:30. We make disciples, you make disciples. Okay, go out there with a bullhorn. No one's going to pay attention to you. It's also probably not your mission statement. No one's walking around asking, I wish someone made me a disciple who made disciples. That's your mission statement. That's what your church should walk around. How can I be a disciple who makes disciples? But no one's walking around feeling that desire, feeling that need. Okay, mission statements are not a marketing asset. Okay, it's internal. And to prove that to you, think of any company in your area. What is their mission statement? Don't think of the one your friends run. Or the ones that you do business with, okay? I'm talking about the Taco Bells. You don't know their mission statement. Walmart. You don't know their mission statement. Office Depot. Did they close? Or is that Office Max? I don't know. But you don't know their mission statement, okay? I'm just listing places that are around me, right? The local Mexican restaurant that everyone loves. Ours is Gringos. You don't know their mission statement. Starbucks, you don't know their mission statement. These companies, they don't market their mission statement. They market what you need, the pain that you feel. Okay. Are you busy? Are you just getting off work and you don't have time to cook a meal for your kids? Get them a Happy Meal. All right. You want to feel good about yourself. You want to enjoy the fall. You want to get all nice, comfy, and cozy with a nice hot drink or an ice drink. Go to Starbucks. Right. You want to get everything you need in one place at low prices. Go to Walmart. Okay. You want high quality Mexican food with a great service and free ice cream. Go to Gringos, right? That's what I know about these places. I don't know about their mission statements because that's not their marketing asset. So your marketing asset, all that to say, is not your mission statement. It's an internal thing. It's what you teach your congregation when they become members. Your staff should have your mission statement memorized, but it's not your marketing asset. How do you get people's attention when they're just passing by? Okay, a couple examples. The church has done a terrible job of answering questions. So I want to ask you, what's the biggest question you've never had answered? People will stop for that message. I understand the world has its boot on your neck, and no matter what you do, the world always drags you back. That's something that's going to stop someone. From there, you can introduce the church. First, so-and-so church is here to help you break free from the chains of this world and experience true freedom in Christ by living the life that he's called you to do. Would you come to church on Sunday? Would you watch online? Give us a call. Whatever your call to action is, right? That's a clear message. That's a almost like a show-stopping message, right? It's a message that you say something on Sunday in the pulpit, and people say, "Preach," right? That's what's going to get people's attention. But not only that, you got to be memorable. Because as you go out with your message, let's just live realistically, right? You're not going to get that message in front of every person every time. But if you can anchor it to visuals, your brand, your visual brand, your colors, your style, your language, if you can anchor that message to those visuals, every time someone sees those visuals, they see your church, they see the building, they see your outreach, they see people wearing your shirt, they will remember you. Oh, that's the church that gave me water at the park. That's the church that paid for that guy's gas. That's the church that bought the house for the blind dude. True story from a client. That's the church that paid off $1 million of medical debt in the community. Another true story from a client. And people remember those churches because they were visually anchored using what we call be memorable. And then lastly, you got to be intentional. This is part of your foundation. And this is where the real magic happens, if I can say so. Sorry if I offended anyone. This is where the real magic happens, because now that you're intentional, with intentionality comes an intentional next step. And if you have one concise next step, think about what's the one thing you want people to do. You should train your congregation to only invite people to that one thing when they're lost, right? Now, obviously you have events you want to invite people to, great. But if you hear someone that specifically would stop because of your messaging, if there's someone that like our church is zeroed in, instead of throwing a barrage of confetti at them saying, hey, pick one, we'd love to have you, give them one thing to do. Come to church with me on Sunday. Come to group with me. Come to this community event. What's that one thing? And then everything nurtures into that one thing. And also with Be Intentional, we can intentionally use our marketing assets, our website, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all that stuff, to point to one resource. We call it an online guest gift for the community. And when you make that available, they download it. Now you have a way in. You have a foot in the door. So for example, if I have a resource, 10 things to do with your kids on a rainy day, and you promote that on the radio, you promote that in all your sermons, you put a little bumper at the end. It's on your website. People can go and download that, and you can deliver it and then also follow up, because you need their email to deliver that free gift, that online guest gift. So you deliver it, then you ask them what they thought of it. Then you share why you made it, because it's important. Family is important. You share a testimony from someone in your church that has that same issue or that used the same resource. And you now have a dialogue. You have a one-to-one dialogue that's personal, private, in their inbox, whether it's email or message, whatever you decide. And you have a conversation started. That's being intentional. And you realize we haven't gotten to any of the sexy stuff. We haven't gotten to a website. We haven't gotten to, we touched a little bit on texting. We haven't gotten to Facebook ads or Google Grants, because none of that works if you don't have these foundations in place. Okay. If you run, I don't care if you have the world's best designer and the world's best copywriter, but you have no message behind it. You don't know who your church is. You cannot communicate it effectively. And you try to run Google Grants, they will shut it down because you're irrelevant. You try to run Facebook ads, no one will click because you're not resonating with them. If you have the most beautiful design and the most eloquent speech, but you don't have the clear message behind it, it's the same as a pastor who goes up on stage and preaches with the beautiful oration of a professional preacher, and he's dressed up in the silk suit, 3-piece suit with the pink pocket pastel square. And he's preaching and he's getting amens, but not once during the entire sermon does he open his Bible or even quote the Bible. So he's all flash and no message. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to have a pretty website, but then not clearly communicate who our church really is. That's why you've got to start with the foundation by being clear, being memorable, and being intentional. Only then can you go to maximizing visibility. Now, this is all about maximizing visibility, is all about what we call peak positioning. That is being available when people are searching for you. Most of the time at this point, it's people searching for churches, both unchurched, de-churched, or just moved, or maybe I'm just not happy with my current church. Okay. Now we can have a conversation about church transplants. That's a different show. But we want to make sure that as we have our messaging, as we have our memorability, and as we have our intentional outreach through the online guest gift, we want to make sure that it's resonating with the people that at least know they want a church. You're not going to resonate with the people who are unchurched and dechurched if you can't even reach the people that are looking for a church, which is why we very intentionally don't hit those ads to lost people yet. We focus on the people that know they need a church to make sure that what we're doing resonates with them. Okay. And that starts with an accurate and engaging website. We call it be engaging, because if someone comes to your website and leaves without doing anything, you might as well not have had a website at all. In fact, you will be penalized by Google if too many people come to your website, do nothing, and leave. That's why it's important to have a captivating message that people can't ignore, to be intentional, to get them to click through and to get a connection with you. And not only that, make it easy for them to connect with you through web chat, through an easy to use navigation, through a fast loading website. All of these create an engaging online presence that not only Google likes, but more importantly, people like. And from there, you got to make that website found. Because if you have a website, a beautiful church website, but no one can find it, then you might as well not have a website at all. This is why most church websites are actually bad stewardship and bad investments from churches, because it's one puzzle piece. You can't tell what the church is because you can't even find it. So you got to be found using local search engine optimization. This is optimizing your website to be found online. This is going out to local resources, your Google business profile, local directories and citations, church directories, online, submitting your information accurately, consistently, and also getting more people to refer your website online. Usually this is done through press releases. We'll talk a little bit more about PR later as the final step of the definitive church marketing method. And then not only that, you have to be represented. If you're represented, that means you get people talking about your church, and not just your church, but what Jesus has done for them in your church. Because here's the truth. If I go to many church online reviews, I see a very common review: happy people, beautiful building, funny pastor, friendly people, 5 stars. Everyone knows pastor's wife wrote that review. Instead, what they should see is reviews from people that are like them, that share a story like what they're going through. Because more important than friendly people, funny pastor, beautiful building, more important is, I once was lost and broken, and I felt like I was no good. But then Jesus found me through this church. And through this church and faith community, I'm now working to be the man I'm called to be. My marriage is better. My relationships are better. My money's better. My kids are better. I'm living an abundant life. And while it's not perfect, I'm striving to be more like Christ every day. And this is a place that if you're broken, this place will show you the fix. 5 stars, right? That is something where I can see I'm broken. I have bad relationships. I'm sleeping on the couch. I'm 1 strike away from getting fired. If I see that, and I see a story, if I'm like that and I see a story like that, I'm going to that church. So that's why it's important to not only have an online presence, but it's got to be engaging. It's got to be found, and it's got to be represented. Okay, I'm actually using an old diagram here because it's just what I had loaded in my video software. The last step we call, or the last phase we call increase awareness. That's what we used to call it. Now we call it momentum multiplier, because that's what it actually is. It's multiplying the momentum you have. Look, you do phase 1, you're going to see triple people come to your church in 90 days because you will have more people understanding who your church is and why they should get involved. You'll get 5 times as many people coming once you get your peak positioning, because now all the people that are searching for a church and searching for ministries and searching for support are now able to find you. And then now to get to 10x, you've got to multiply the momentum, and that's going out and reaching the people who don't know about your church, don't even know they need church, have a misconception of church. They're unchurched, they're de-church, they're anti-church, they're unknowing of the church. They don't know what they don't know, so they can't act upon what they don't know. This is where, in this last phase, you go out and you make them aware of not only of your church, but of Jesus. And we do that through 3 phases. These are the 3 proven ones. There are other methods, YouTube ads and TikTok ads we won't get through here. But this is where we really get into paid advertising. And the first one isn't really that much paid. We call that Be Known. That is using Google ads through the Google grant. That's free money that Google gives you to advertise your church in Google search. So you don't just show up when people are searching for church near me. You show up when people are looking for divorce resources, questions about the Bible, questions about local news, questions about national news. You know, what does the Bible say about blank? You could actually show your answers to someone before they see someone else's answers. And you know someone else's answers aren't always going to be biblical, whether they're a church or not. And then not only that, Okay, that's what we call intent advertising, meaning you're advertising as an answer to a problem people are searching for. We also do Facebook ads. We recommend that through what we call our Be Seen framework, where you're not just putting out ads that say, hey, look at our church, look how great we are. Don't you want to plan a visit? Don't you want to come to an event? If you only promote your church when you have an event coming on, don't be surprised if people think you're just an event church, a programmatic church. Okay, so instead, we take a more relational approach using our Be Seen framework, and we get your church in front of people in a relational way to get them to submit prayer requests, to get them to pray with you, to get them on messages with you, texting you, okay, with a special number, not your personal number. So you can develop a relationship, because that's where discipleship really happens. This whole thing is about discipleship, okay? It should be called church discipleship, but I mean, we use marketing methods, so that's what we call it. The last step is to be everywhere. Because imagine if someone's looking for a church, or someone was just like, God, just help me, I don't know what to do. And they keep seeing your church, not only online through a Google ad, not only through a Facebook ad, but they hear about you during an interview on the news. They see you at a conference they're at, or they see you at a market they're at. And they eventually say, because our clients hear this so much, I was thinking about church and your name just kept coming up. Or I was struggling with this and your name just kept coming up. God must have been trying to tell me something. Absolutely, amen. And I know how. Because through what we call Be Everywhere, you create relationships and you get other people to talk about you. And that's where real influence comes from, because people will hear what you say about yourself, but they'll believe what others say about you. So if you can get the public talking about you and sharing the stories of what God's doing in your church, then everyone in your community will know who you are. See, and again, you recognize now that all the steps here in the Definitive Church Marketing Method, these are pieces sold by other companies, and I have no problems those companies selling those pieces. The problem I have is when they sell a piece as the entire picture. All right. It's like that old thing where someone was said, you can get a one-of-a-kind, unique Abraham copper mold, or I can't remember what it was, statue or whatever, and it's yours for only $100, and then they just mail you a penny. Because they never lied. They just made it sound more extravagant than it is. And unfortunately, that's what marketing is sometimes. That's not what we do for churches, or what we do for ourselves. Okay. But what you want to do, what I have a problem with these other companies, let me get back to what I was saying, is they present a puzzle piece as an entire solution. The best companies I know out there know that they're just a puzzle piece, and they try to fit in with other pieces, some of them better than others. I want to say, like, just get the whole puzzle and make it easy for you and get it in one place. But this is not a sales thing. This is a podcast. I want to help you get as much value from this as possible. So if you want more people to say, God was trying to tell me something, you kept showing up, you need the whole puzzle piece. You need the Definitive Church Marketing Method. So at this point, a lot of folks still have questions about what church marketing really is, because there's a lot of definitions for it. Okay. I'm going to share with you my definition, but first I want to tell you about William Booth. If you've studied any amount of church history, you know who William Booth is. So be able to keep me accountable to the dates here. But from what I know of William Booth, one of the founders of the Salvation Army, I know in 1882, he went to the theater to hear some of the new music that was sweeping the country. And he took his son. The problem is they couldn't get into the theater because it was so packed. It was overcrowded. And not only that, they did something they never did back then. They actually shut the doors and locked the doors because they didn't want any more people to come in. But the community wanted that music. So they banged down the door and they banged down the door and they banged down the door until there wasn't no door anymore. Not just to get more people in to hear the music, but to get the music out and into the community, into the crowd. And William Booth, hearing the song, said, why should the devil get all the best tunes? This happened again similarly in the 1960s during the Jesus Revolution, where Christians looked at rock and roll and said, this is where the people's attention is. This is what's capturing people's attention. This is what's sticking with people in their mind. What if we used rock and roll to praise God, to speak the truth of God, to share the gospel of God and Jesus Christ? And the Jesus Revolution happened. I believe we are on the cusp of a new revolution. And right now it is make or break whether or not the church, the local church, is going to seize the opportunity that is marketing to gain the attention, garner the attention, earn the attention of their community and point it back at Jesus Christ. Because everyone's walking around. We make this joke. Everyone's walking around. They got lights on the sidewalk now so people don't walk into the street while they're checking their phone. Like, that's a serious thing. People's attention are on their phone. People's attention are on media and the other marketing messages that they see. So what if the church sees those opportunities and instead pointed people to Christ through them? In the same way that we took modern day music in the Salvation Army and that we took rock and roll in the Jesus Revolution, we can now take marketing and use that to proclaim the goodness of God, to use that to create relationships where discipleship happens. And we don't have to compete with the world through marketing. We can overcome it. We can be more clear through it. Or the other problem, the other option is the problem, which is where the church just stands back and says, we're here if you need us. We're better than that, which is, I think, is selfish to say like, oh, we'll just be here and, we don't do that. We don't need that. Okay, great. Others will, because they're willing to do whatever it takes to reach their community. So here's how the new marketing revolution can work for churches. And it really comes down to 3 ways that you can reach your community using marketing. And they follow what I call the decision-making process. I'm sure there's a fancy name for it. I call it the decision-making process. Because when someone wants to make a decision, they make a decision to change, to check out something, to look into something. 3 things happen really quick within a split second. Okay? They first think, who do I know? So if they think I want to go to church, for example, they think of what are the churches I already know about. But if they don't know, then they go to, well, who do I know that would know? Friends and family, colleagues, coworkers. The problem is that as the age continues and generations go on, that friends and family component becomes less and less. Because number one, unfortunately, many families are not what they used to be. So there may not even be a family to ask. And then not only that, there's so much shame in the world. It's kind of shameful to say, I have an addiction. What church should I go to? Or what should I do? So more and more, that second step is disappearing. So if they don't know anyone and their friends and family don't know anyone, or perhaps they don't want to ask their friends and family, they go to Pastor Google. And they will decide or make a decision based on what Google tells them. So if you really want to be a part of this new marketing revolution and get people to pay attention to your church, you can introduce them to Jesus Christ and preach the gospel to them. You have to be at every step of those decision-making processes. Who do I know? Okay, which means you have to put in the work to make sure they've heard of you. So, you have to go. You have to be a church on the move. This, by the way, this whole definitive church marketing method thing that we teach and we do for churches doesn't work if you're a dying church. It doesn't work if you're a church that's barely stagnant. You have to be a church on the move. You have to have people that are active, like an active congregation. Okay, marketing doesn't save a dying church. It kills it faster. I think that's a good thing. But you have to first be a church on the move. You have to be a church that's going into your community. Okay, then you have to do direct marketing. Meaning, or direct advertising, meaning not billboards, that's indirect. Not signs, that's indirect. Flyers, still indirect, okay? Because they're reading about you, they're not talking with you. So instead, use direct advertising, one-on-one advertisements where it's you and me and that's it. Okay, a Google ad is your website and me and that's it. Facebook ads is you and me and that's it. A YouTube ad, you and me and that's it. Okay? Text message and email, you and me, that's it. They have to have heard of you some way. And then not only that, they might have heard of you from someone else. That's where public relations comes in. That's the third step to making sure that someone knows about you before they need to make a decision to connect with you. So if you can get those 3 pieces, then they'll know you when God calls them to go to a church. But maybe they haven't heard of those. They'll go to friends and family. Good news. Even if you haven't reached them, maybe you've reached their friends and family, and their friends and family can refer you or recommend you. But maybe they haven't either. So then they go to Google. How do you get Google to recommend you? We've figured out that Google, and I don't have time to go into it right now. Maybe I'll do a show on it later. But we've figured out that Google is only useful if you're on the first page. If you're not on the first page, you don't exist. But not only that, if you're on the first page and our clients are on the first page, our clients are going to be on the first page 3 times. because we've realized the importance of Google. So if someone in our client's neighborhood or community is searching for churches near me, they're going to see our clients 3 times before even when they see you only 1 time. Because there's an ad spot, there's a local spot, and there's the organic spot. And our goal is to get there 3 times. Okay, the ad. So that's how you get known in Google. You get an ad, preferably with the ad grant if you're a 501c3. You get a local spot because you've done local search engine optimization, and you've done an organic spot because you've done other organic search engine optimization and correct public relations. And that's why the marketing revolution is lacking in churches, because we think, well, we just do one piece. We just have a good website. We can't find you. So people don't know you. Their friends don't know you. And Google doesn't recommend you because it doesn't know your website is there. Or it doesn't know you exist, or it doesn't trust your website, so it doesn't recommend it. This is why StoryBrand, as great as it is, doesn't work alone, because now you're just talking real good, but you don't have it effectively used on your website, and you don't have it effectively used on social media. And this is why Facebook ads or Google ads don't work for churches, because you haven't put the messaging thought behind it to make it clear with a message that people that see the ad can't ignore. And then when they click through the ad, your website's broken, or it looks totally different from the ad, there's discontinuation and they leave anyways. And then you have a bad click-through rate and Google cancels your Google ad account. See, you're starting to see how this whole thing has to fit together to work effectively. So what would it look like if instead of just having a couple pieces and trying to piece them together, what if your community had the entire picture of your church and you took their attention from sideways to upwards? To stop being so focused on the marketing messages of here, but to be focused on the message of God, because you use modern day messaging and marketing to grab their attention and point it to their creator. I interviewed a local congregation that was at a small church. And I said, what made you go to this church? And what's very interesting, this church, this small faith community is about 60 people. I said, why'd you pick this church? And the people that I interviewed, I can't say every single one of these, said, we like this church because it's smaller than the other churches around us. Because in a big city, you have more bigger churches. You know, you got tighter residences, so there's more people to go to one church in one location. But this church managed to stay small. And they looked at it like a bad thing. They kept saying, oh, we're just a small church. You know, even when I'm talking, tell me about your church. Well, we're just a small church. See, they thought that they were in competition with big churches and they couldn't do what the big churches were doing. The good news is now that this marketing revolution that we're entering into, it levels the playing field. And that small churches can get just as much attention and bring it to God as the big churches. You just have to desire to do it. Because the problem that this church faced and a lot of small churches face is they keep saying, we're just a small church. We can't do that because we're just a small church. If you keep thinking you're small, you're going to stay small. If you keep putting God in a box and that you can't grow us because we're only this size, you're going to stay that size and God's going to stay in that box. But if you do whatever it takes to reach out to the community, I'm not saying you got to grow to a 2,000 person church. I wouldn't even want that for you personally. Okay, but if that's what God's calling you to do, then great, do it. Okay, but maybe God wants you to reach more people. So instead of 60 people on Sunday, you can have 120 on Sunday. You could have 200 online. You could be feeding 400 families because you've got 800 people invested in what your church is doing. Like you are planted for a purpose, and to say that we're just a small church is telling me that you're just happy with the people that you have. And you don't really have an evangelistic mindset, a discipleship-focused mindset. And you're really a church for the saints rather than a church on the move. And you may not want to admit that, and it's a very hard thing to admit. But if you want to be a church on the move, if you want to be a disciples who making disciples, if you want to grow as a church, I'm not saying you have to grow to 10,000 or 2,000 or 1,000 or even 500, but you got to have some kind of growth so you can eventually multiply. Okay, growth doesn't always mean mega. Grow your church doesn't always mean become the biggest church in town. You could have the biggest impact in town, and you could not be the biggest. I'm talking to one right now. They're impacting thousands in their community. They got 130 people in their congregation. Okay, and then not only that, if you just sit here and stay small, and you say, we're just a small church. To me, that's a benefit. And to that church, People went to that church because they were getting something there because of the size. That was a blessing for them. They looked at it as a curse. And so if you keep thinking we're just a small church, we're going to stay small, you are unattracted to the people that are trying to find you. And you make it sound like a small church is a bad thing because you say we're just a small church. I'm just one man. So there are people that you could serve that could be lured away from other churches if you don't do whatever it takes. And the worst part is that maybe God wants them or is calling them to go to a church because they need your church, because your church is best equipped to serve them. But you're not found. You're not seen. You're not known. You're not everywhere. You're not clear. You're not remembered. You're not intentional. You're not engaging. You're not reputable. And so they don't know you. And they go to a false prophet, a false teacher, a wolf in sheep's clothing. This is why our definitive church marketing method is actually created for small churches. Okay. You can be a church as little as 30, as large as 700, as large as 1,000. This isn't something where we're trying to take a small church and do what large churches are doing. This is what we're doing to get small churches more attention and on the map to where large churches are asking them, who's doing this for you? Why are small churches showing up more than our church? And it gets them to start thinking, what are we doing? Right? We're just a church for the church. So our average client size, last time I ran the numbers, is about 125 people starting. Okay. So you don't have to, in order to put this into practice, you don't have to be a large church. You don't have to have large church funding. You can do this as a small church, and it starts with your website. A lot of small churches don't have an intentional website. They don't have a website that's engaging. They don't have a website that's usable. And so even though God is doing good things, people don't see it. And in fact, even if I'm on your website, I don't see it. So if you're going to start somewhere, start there. Go to NavaChurchWebsite.com. You can get our framework. That is, again, one piece of the whole puzzle that I shared with you, but you get this framework that is going to show you what's possible. You're going to look at the framework. You're going to look at your website and you're going to say, this is why people aren't paying attention to us. This is why 4 out of 5 people that come to our website don't do anything and leave. Then you start to realize, I don't know what kind of message this needs. I don't know what kind of visuals this needs. I can understand why the Facebook ads didn't work because we were sending them to a broken website. You start here. This is the start of changing things for your online presence to get found, to get people connecting with you. NavaChurchWebsite.com. And you will see more people connecting with your church. I mentioned a church earlier that we helped bring, they had like 3 first-time guests a month. Now they're having 20 to 30. 30 was a good number. So I always lead with that. But yes, a month is 20. And their community really needs that church. And that church tried a lot of things. Radio, TV, billboards, other live streaming things. But the problem was what they were doing wasn't easily discovered. It wasn't gaining attention. Because it wasn't gaining attention, it wasn't gaining traction. Because it wasn't gaining traction, it was bad investments, and the pastor spent more time on the phone and on the computer than in front of people. And that's not what I want for you. I want my team to be behind the computer because that's what God's called them to do. I want you to be in front of people because that's what God's called you to do. So thank you for watching. I appreciate you all. Like, subscribe wherever you are. Leave a review if you're watching the podcast. That's very important to me. I want to be accurately represented. And hey, if that's a 1 star, if you say Justin doesn't know what he's talking about, he's the Antichrist, this is the worst show I've ever listened to, wasted time, then hey, leave that review. I'll deal with it. I'll improve on it. I'll be thankful for that review. But if this show helps you, if it intrigues you, if it gets your mind going, if it gives you some ideas, the last 9 episodes, I've gone deep into each one of these steps, then let me know in a review, please, wherever you're listening. God bless, and I'll see you guys next week.
That's going to do it for today's episode of the Best Known Church Show with Justin Nava. Be sure to subscribe to stay updated on the latest news, strategies, and resources that you need to reach 10x more people and become the best known in your community. To send us a message or leave a voicemail for Justin to be played on a future show, visit thebestknownchurchshow.com. And if you'd like to work with us so you can focus on your ministry, give us a call at 832-861-7654. Until next time, stay outrageous, unreasonable, and relentless.